Hi everyone, it's Tony Tonkin here from Wise, Witty and Wit. Glad you could be with me today to talk about something that is of concern to me. And I guess that is an issue around how we as men choose to treat women. It's become evident over the last few weeks that certainly politicians treat women badly, and primarily that is men who are treating women badly. And I guess what's come of that is that I think we as men have been acting badly since the year dot, and the time has come for us to start to modify our behaviour, and I guess take responsibility for it as well. It is disappointing that we have people like Jeremy Cordeaux here in Adelaide who decided that it was appropriate to say that Brittany Higgins should not have been drunk. She was a silly little girl for being drunk, and making that sorts of comments, which lends us to believe in the comments that we make around women are responsible for the way they dress, the way they behave, which therefore allows men or gives permission for men to rape them or sexually assault them or to harass them in some way. And there comes a time, though, when us as men have to choose between a decent and appropriate way of respecting others or to continue the cultural norms which have been a part of our experience forever. Now, I'm not going to suggest for a moment that I'm exempt from any of this stuff, because over the years I'm sure I have done some things that are inappropriate. Or said some things anyway that were inappropriate. But I think the time has arrived where we not only need to take responsibility for what we say and do, but we need to make a stand against others who say and do the same repulsive, silly, stupid, misogynist things. And it is important, therefore, that we decide to make that stand. So us as men need to make a stand against the types of things that we normally say, which we think are either funny or that we think are enticing or whatever it is that runs through our mind, or we just think that, it's going to impress our peers, other guys, whether it's barroom or locker room talk, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it's done in just with some mates, or whether it's done out in the open where there are women around. Either way, it is wrong, because it is our thought process that tells us that if we're thinking this stuff, then there must be something okay with it. That our mindset is that women are targets for this, that they deserve this, that they are, on some occasions, responsible for it. Now, we as men would feel uncomfortable if comments were made about us, not about our sexuality or anything, but if comments are made about us that are denigrating in any way, if we're called stupid or retarded, or we're given some sort of negative connotation about who we are, we would object to it. We may not say anything about it because we're men and we're not going to talk about our emotional state, but we would still feel offended by what people would say about us. If someone says in our workplace that we're incompetent when we think we're quite competent and we're doing well at something, we are likely to be offended by that. In the same way, women are offended by the types of things that we say to them. It's just that we think that they're acceptable. So at some level, we have to start to make a decision, to make a stand. I can remember White Ribbon some years ago when I was a part of that. The obligation for any person, any male that was involved in White Ribbon Day, was to ensure that other men were not making statements that were damaging to women. And I thought it was a great initiative, and it certainly made myself and others check out our own thinking about the things that we were saying and doing. Because we must remember that if we're saying and doing things that are harmful to other people, or even if we're thinking those things, then they come out to play. They do. Our version of who a woman is, that somehow they may be inferior, or they may not be as good as men, or as successful as men, or whatever it might be. Those notions of us as males being superior are wrong at every level. And we must do something to overcome them, to confront them, to realise that they are damaging. Look, they're damaging not just to women. They're damaging to us as men, because not only does it make us look like dicks, it makes us look like we don't care. We don't appreciate, we don't love or respect the opposite sex. And it's sad to me, because there's so much about everybody, no matter who you are, no matter what your gender, no matter what your sexual orientation is, that actually needs to be respected and understood. And if someone comes to you and says that they have been sexually assaulted or harassed, then it is your job to be able to give that person a voice, no matter who you are. And if you're in the media, then clearly your job is to be able to express that view in an appropriate way that gets some sort of result. Now, the struggle for me has been that there have been many people in the parliamentary era anyway, where they have known of what has been happening for a long period of time. And most of the people involved, in fact, I'd say all of them, knew of what was happening, but chose to do nothing. Now, and that includes women. And I know that many women, I think, have probably struggled with the notion that they are being harassed and sexually assaulted or sexually harassed, and choose to do nothing because they themselves, I guess, believed that they weren't going to be heard, that no one was going to take any action. The person who was harassing them was more powerful, more influential than them. You know, the notion, will they ever be believed, and so on, would have prohibited them from doing anything. But the bottom line is they still chose to do nothing, no matter who they were, male or female. So to sit back now and to be able to say that you were in this place of power and influence and chose to do nothing is, to me, still a pretty pathetic excuse. If you're a woman, you should have defended the other women. The women who have been sexually harassed should have all got together, talked about what this was like, made a joint statement to the press or whatever, and had this issue confronted a long, long time ago. But it's almost like people bought into the problem that many, even the women, I think, probably saw the opportunities that sat before them were rare because they were women in often what appears to be a man's world in terms of politics in particular, and that they then believed that there was very little chance of them rising any higher if they confronted some of this stuff. So often they looked at it in terms of their own position and failed to understand that there were consequences for doing that. And one of the main consequences was that many, many women would continue to be harmed because of their inaction. Now, the same applies to us men. So I'm not singling out women. I'm just interested in the fact that there were many women who were familiar with what was going on but chose to do nothing. But there were heaps of men who not only knew about it but were enacting these terrible behaviours. And that there were men who probably objected to those behaviours but also chose to do nothing. For the same reasons, I guess, as the women may have chosen to do nothing. And there comes a time, though, where we have to make that stand. And I think the stand has arrived. And my message to everybody is, look, it doesn't matter what environment you're working in, if you're behaving in ways or you know of other people that are behaving in ways that are offensive, then either you stop your own behaviour, make sure that you're notifying others that if they continue with that behaviour, or even though they might have done that behaviour, you're going to report them. And it's almost like we should take on this zero tolerance approach towards sexual harassment, sexual assault, and particularly rape. That we should say, if this occurs on my watch, if I know about this, then I'm going to do something to make sure that other people know. And if the other people who you notify choose to do nothing, then you find ways to escalate it. The media love this stuff, as they have demonstrated over the last month or so. So take it to the media. Get it out there. Let people know. Twitter, fabulous way to let people know what is happening. And, I guess we have to be careful about labelling people, because if you're told of something that's been happening, then clearly it's just an allegation. But if you know it's a pattern, if you know there is a culture of this sort of stuff happening in the workplace or elsewhere, then you need to notify people that this is your experience. And you need to talk to people who would sit on the same side as the fence of you, and to make decisions about how to deal with it. We've been very slow at responding to these problems. Scott Morrison basically is an embarrassment in terms of his ineffectualness around all of this stuff. But that doesn't mean that we need to stop doing the work. And I guess what the message I want to make is that we are all responsible. You're responsible. I'm responsible. And we need to make sure that it stops, and that it stops now, because it's damaged so many people, it's ruined so many careers. And as a result of some of this behaviour, people have taken their own lives. So let's put an end to it. Let's say stop all violence and harassment towards each other, no matter what sex you are, because it is wrong. Thanks for being with me. Take care, look after yourself, and be safe.